Hello and welcome to the video. This is another mixed media do-it-yourself project. Part of the Wildflower Series, it's episode 19, making 1/12 scale tulips using copy paper and floral wire. Single tulips are made. Here's some in pastel, and then there's some with a two-tone color and the yellow and the white. Then I also made some that are the parrot, that are double, and frilly or ruffled. Then I tried to make some that were the Red Riding Hood, which are shorter tulips with a variegated leaf. And then I also tried feathery Greenland, pink and green flowers. There are lots of ways that you can arrange them in displays. Suggested materials and supplies are shown and listed throughout the video. Tulips come in many colors. In order to do the project, you can either paint regular paper, or you can get paper that's already pre-colored, or you can use permanent markers. If you are going to paint or use the permanent markers, just make sure when it dries you flip it over to the other side and color that as well. To make the petals, I am using a punch or paper cutter in the petal shape of 5/8 in diameter. I have two different shapes here and I'm just showing you how the design looks. Next, I show how the formed petal looks with the two different designs. If you don't have a paper punch, trace a 5/8 inch diameter circle on paper, then trace out petal shapes and cut them out. In this video, I'm showing one way to make paper tulips. Of course, you can make tulips with resin or other materials as well. Once you've cut out enough petals in whatever color shapes that you want, then I get a foam mat and I get a stylus. And I take my little petal shapes and I'm just kind of pressing in to shape on each of the little petal parts just to soften it up, so when I make the big curl and shape it into the little cup shape or the little egg shape, it softens up the paper. So I just kind of take my time there and roll it around. And as soon as I have it rolled around pretty well, I'm going to take it down straight from the top and I'm going to press it into the foam to kind of get that shape. I'm using a toothpick to kind of help some of those petals tuck in. And I try different sizes of the ball styluses to press in, just to make it wider at the bottom. There's a little bit larger stylus ball, and I press that down just to help get that shape in there. I think the 6-petal shape that I used was a lot easier to work with than the 8-petal. For the stems, I use a 26-inch wrapped floral wire, but you could also paint it, regular wire, just paint it to make it a little bit thicker in any color that you like. I cut the wire in 1-inch pieces. Then I take glue and put it at the bottom of the flower and onto one end of the stem and glue them together. I let them dry. I'm trying to keep my hands out of the way so that you can see, so I put a little glue on the stem and then I grab a little flower head and then I place it at the base and let it hang there till it's pretty stiff. And then I set it down to dry. I tried to make little buds by rolling a little piece of paper lengthwise and then gluing it to the stem. To add a center of the piston and stamen, I use a starburst punch. It's 5/16 to 1/4 of an inch in diameter. I color regular white copy paper with black permanent marker and yellow permanent marker, and then when that's dry I punch out the little starburst shapes in the black and in the yellow. Another option instead of the paper would be to use embroidery floss and cut it into little pieces. And with the paper pieces, I take a black fine marker and around the little edges or the little tips I place a little dot of black, and then I'll make a little star kind of in the center of the starburst with the black permanent marker. And then once I get the little star, it's kind of 3 little scratch marks to make that little star shape. Then I'm going to take it over onto the foam mat and take the ball stylus, and I'm going to make that into a little cup shape. I'm going to press that down into the foam and just kind of whirl it around a little bit and press it down. And then I have my center, if I'm going to be using the yellow as the center. Now if I use the black, I'll do the same thing with the foam mat. I'll push it in just like that and I'll put it in, and then you can kind of see with this one I have a black one in there but then I put little dots of yellow paint on the tops of the tips of the black edges. Place a dot of glue into the center base of the flower and then press in your stamen and pistil. To make the tulip leaves, I have painted paper green in a leaf green color, kind of a mixture. I let that dry, and then I cut it into elliptical shapes, anywhere from 3/4 of an inch to 5/8 of an inch. You could use an Ellipse Master template to help you if you wanted to do that in the different sizes. I kind of made a little tip at the ends, and mine are a little bit different sizes. But once I cut them out, and I have to cut out a lot because I did do a lot of flowers, I get them cut out, and then I want to crease it kind of in the middle. And you can use a toothpick to help curve it, or you can use a pin, a quilter's pin, and you just kind of wrap it around vertically or lengthwise and just do a little gentle squeeze. So I folded them in half, and I made a little pile of those ready for my next step, which is to grab a stem, and then I'm placing the leaf kind of about halfway through, maybe 1/2 inch down. Once it dries good, then you can fold it over a little bit, and it'll work great in vases or bouquets. During the process, you may have to reshape your tulips. Just gently squeeze them around until you get the shape that you want. Another way to display the tulips is placing them in ground soil. For small plant arrangements, I'll just use a piece of cardstock and sprinkle used dried tea bits on it. But I want to make changeable flower beds, and for that I use regular foam board or poster board, and then I glue used dried tea bits onto it and I let it dry. And then I use a stylus and push down and create little holes. And for this piece right here that I'm working on right now, it'll take about 40 little holes, and then I can place my tulips into the little holes, and I'll be able to rearrange it because I'm not gluing them, I'm just sticking them in. For this flower bed, I'm going to make a multicolor display, and I punch the holes in, and then it's kind of random but not. I'm taking a look at to see where I need to add the color so it kind of matches, in opposite sides. And when you're making the holes, make sure you use a small ball stylus, one that matches your stem. And don't wiggle it around too much, like I did with this orange flower on the right that's falling out. That little hole is a little bit too big, which is okay. You can add some filler, some used dried tea bits, and then make the hole a little bit smaller. And while I started out thinking I was going to be all organized with my colors and I tried to lay everything out, it was more fun just doing this kind of one at a time. But you could just lay out all the colors on your mat before you punch the holes into your flower bed. Now that I have my multicolor flower bed arrangement all ready to go, I want to add some ground base leaves, and I need to glue them. When you glue the leaves, make sure you glue them to the stem and not to the ground. That will make it easier to change your colors around with the flower stems. You can glue 2 to 3 base leaves per stem if you like. And here is my spring mix flower bed, ready for stones and bugs and butterflies. To change the multicolor spring tulip flower bed to a bright red, orange, and purple flower bed, I just need to remove those colors that aren't red, orange, and purple. So I just hold on to the base, and then I pull from the stem. I'm using a tweezers, but you could use your fingers. Take out the yellows and the pinks. And once I have those colors removed, I start to add the red, orange, and purples into the empty holes. So here's the changed flower bed to bright red, oranges, and purples. I use the same process of removing colors that I don't need to make a pastel, yellow, and peach flower bed. And also for the yellow and white two-tone tulip bed. The next single petal flower I want to try are the Red Riding Hood tulips. They're shorter than other tulips, about 1/2 inch stem to 3/4 inch stem for these. And I put them on a little piece of cardstock with the used dried tea bits. I use the same elliptical leaves, except for the top part, I use a brown or this is a burgundy permanent marker to make the variegated leaves. These tulips have a black sunburst center, with yellow paint dots on the inside tips. Another option you can do to the copy paper, this one is red copy paper, I'm taking a red permanent marker and I'm coloring the paper. I'm going to let it dry before I would shape it into the little cup tulip shape, but it gives it a deeper, richer color. Next, I want to try double petals, and I'm going to use the frilly, ruffled, and the parrot tulips. Instead of the single petal, it'll be double. So you'll put one petal on the outside, then another set of petals, and then you'll put the center sunburst. I have just put these tulip stems into these purchased vases. I think I'll add some other little flowers to them as well. And instead of the other petal punch that I used before, I'm going to try a snowflake punch. It's a 5/8 inch and it kind of looks ruffly. I thought I'll give it a try. So you need to have 2 for each flower, and then you'll need a little sunburst, either in black or yellow. Off to the right, I have several other snowflake punches that could be used for different scales. I want to try making a rainbow parrot tulip. First, I start by taking 2 bright snowflakes in yellow, bright yellow paper, and then I actually make the tulips. I do the regular process by using the stylus and the mat, and then I'll put the insides, and then I paint it with a toothpick, the bright neon colors of orange and the pink, purple, and green. I'm showing you that how to paint, like doing stripes. You could probably do it first, paint it on the outside before you make the little tulip shape or the little cup egg shape. So glue the petals together, put the inside in, add the stem, and now you're ready to paint. I use the toothpick and the colors, and I just make tiny little vertical lines all the way around, and then I glue a leaf on to the stem. And then I make a ruffled Greenland tulip. I use a white and light pink snowflake with a yellow sunburst in the center. I curl them like I do the other ones into the petal shape. I put the white inside with a pink outside, and then I take green paint and I put little lines around the outside of the tulip cup shapes on the pink side. Add some leaves, put it to some ground base, add some more leaves, and let dry. There are all kinds of ideas that you can use for soil. I like using used dry tea bits. I do have a previous video that shows how to make them. And here are some display ideas. The little butterflies are from a nail decal kit. You could use your miniature tulips in diorama scenes, patios, gardens, porches, nurseries, botanical gardens, flower carts, in vases or vases, potted containers, landscape settings, outdoor displays, in nature preserves, forest, woods, country roadsides, and meadows. What is your favorite tulip in the video? Well, I hope you liked this episode of Wildflowers, making mini tulips. Thank you so much for watching and sharing.